Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm Mariana, your host, and in today's episode asks an important question. Is the current model of fertility care really working for those who need it most? Our guest today, Maria Alonso, brings a compelling perspective to this conversation. Maria has experienced the world of fertility treatment firsthand, and she also written powerfully about the challenges she and countless others have faced. She shares how the one size fits all approach often fails to provide the in depth, personalized care that people deserve. Things as simple yet crucial as a guidance on lifestyle adjustments, nutrition, or even injection site advice. Her story goes beyond personal experience, raising larger questions about how fertility care can evolve to meet modern needs. Maria's insight might challenge your assumptions about the industry and highlight why change is so critical, not just for individuals, but for a society facing a steep decline in birth rates. And yes, Maria's journey includes freezing her embryos, a choice we don't often discuss on this podcast, but her decision sparks a conversation about the importance of creating options even in a system that sometimes feels like it's stacked against us. So, what can we learn from Maria's story and how it might shape the future of fertility care for everyone? Stick with us to find out. Welcome to Fertility and Wholeness Podcast. Are you tired of seeing that test be negative month after month? Will you ever stop having to take test after test? Are you scared of all the medical terminology, office visits, and misinformation you see at every turn on your infertility journey? If you answer yes to any of those, you're not alone. You are at the right place. I'm so happy you're here with us. My name is Ariana. I'm a fertility care practitioner and a wholeness coach with over a decade of experience on the field. I created this podcast because I know what it is to feel alone and lost while navigating fertility problems. And after helping hundreds of women, teaching them how to not protract their cycles, boost their fertility, and navigate their monthly emotional roller coaster and get pregnant naturally, I am on a mission to empower women to take charge of their fertility journey. In this podcast, you will find heartfelt conversations, education, tips on how to take care of and understand your fertility, emotional support, simple lifestyle changes to boost your fertility, nutrition, self-care routines, tips for handling stress and anxiety with ease. We have amazing, exciting expert interviews and guests, inspirational stories, and practical advice on preparing for pregnancy and joyful delivery. Are you ready to reclaim your health, your life, and become pregnant naturally? If so, grab your green juice and prenatal vitamins. This episode is just what the doctor ordered. Welcome to today's episode. We're diving deep into a topic that affects so many women in their fertility journeys, the quality of care in the fertility clinics. Our guest today is Maria Alonso, a writer and an advocate who experienced the challenge firsthand and is passionate about improving patient-centered care in the space. Maria, thank you for joining us. I'd love to start by hearing more about what inspired you to write this important article.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It's great to have the opportunity to speak more about the topic just because I am honestly so passionate about it. When I get together with like friends and stuff and they start talking about fertility, I'm always like, let me roll my sleeves and tell you everything I know. But I mean, like you said, I actually went to the journey myself. And as I was going through the journey, I was like, there is no way that this actually functions properly. And just the care that I was getting throughout my journey was just really lacking, to be honest. I did 7 rounds of egg freezing, and with the whole idea that we were going to do embryos, right? So we ended up with a really good count of embryos. Like we ended up with 2 embryos, a girl and a boy that are healthy. We ended up with a boy and a girl that are mosaic. So they have about like 50% of surviving. But I think I got the really healthy ones because I educated myself and I reached out and I learned as much as I did. That really helped my journey. Like, I can guarantee you that if I would have not done all the research that I did, I probably would have not even gotten those two really healthy embryos that I end up getting.
So, in your article, you actually talk about how tech companies are offering more fertility benefits, but then the clinics are not treating patients like patients, right?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think tech companies need to be very competitive, right? They needed to offer the best benefits out there, and that included fertility benefits. Because if you go and work for an NGO, if you go and work for like a Procter and Gamble or any other company, like usually fertility benefits are not part of the package. Like, it's very rare that you find fertility benefits that are part of the package, and good fertility benefits too. So I think having these tech companies offering all these fertility benefits, I mean, it arises with like more people are able to go to the fertility clinic, and these fertility clinics are getting more patients and they can keep up with the demand. I think that's one. I think two, to be honest, I think it's just the care in America. Like, I don't think doctors ever spend too much time with their patients to truly know what's wrong with them and truly know how to care for them. Like, myself, being a woman of color and being Latin, like, I was used to having my doctors going to my birthday parties and like getting an appointment to go to the OBGYN. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, you can get an appointment next week. And here in the States, it's like, oh, your appointment is for December 26th. I was like, what? Like, that's like in a few months. But I think it's like that demand, I think, is that care that's truly lacking, and mostly in the fertility world. Just, I don't know if it's because the doctors are not educating themselves very well. I don't know if they don't necessarily have the time to care for their patients. And I do know that there's so many regulations that you have to follow that don't necessarily allow you for your doctor to really care about the patient either. So overall, I just think the system is broken.
You had 7 rounds where they removed the egg, then fertilize it and become an embryo. How many actually, out of all the 7 rounds, are actually viable?
So out of my 7 rounds that I did, each round was like I was getting like anywhere from, well, the first round I had 3 eggs, which was not a really good number. Then it was getting like higher count. So I was getting like anywhere from like 8 to 12. Like that, probably 12 was the highest amount that I had at some point. But we were fertilizing them, like you said, and we ended up with 4 embryos. So we have a girl and a boy that are healthy, and then we have the girl and the boy that are mosaic. So have about like 50% chance of surviving, like once you implant them. So, I mean, overall, I think we got really good numbers from where we started, that we were getting 3 eggs to actually having 4 viable babies.
Do you remember any pre canceling, like we don't need to go that far with the embryo with IVF or anything like that? Maybe we need to work on your fertility or a more holistic approach. Do you remember that being offered to you?
Never, never. No, they, to be honest, the care that I got was, it was bad. Like, I don't know how to explain how bad it was. Like, they didn't even tell me to take like supplements. Like, they told me to take vitamin D. I remember watching a movie, this like rom-com that's about fertility, and I didn't know it was about fertility. I watched that. And I saw the girl like that was going to the egg freezing treatment, and she was putting the meds that the doctor gave her. And I was like, oh my gosh, she has more meds than what they recommended me. Like, she had like more vitamins that they told me to take. Like, it was just a lack of care overall. Like, there was no like, first you can do like try this holistic approach, like, or even try these like supplements. Like, it was very much like, okay, you want to freeze your eggs? I mean, the first time the first doctor told me I was old, and then she never reached out again. Like, I didn't hear from him until I actually reached out to the clinic, and I was like, hey, is this like egg freezing gonna happen? Like, been waiting for a few months. And then they're like, oh no, well, the doctor says you're too old, so you probably don't even have good quality eggs. I'm like, well, the doctor hasn't examined me. Like, there is no way she knows I don't have good quality eggs because no one knows that. So it was just a lack of even trying to try or like offering a holistic approach. Absolutely not.
Do you remember, were you ever had a diagnosis from a regular OBGYN about endometriosis, polycystic ovaries? I mean, the normal fertility type of challenges.
Yeah, no, nothing. Like it was always very like I had like regular checkups that were always normal. Like there was never this like, oh my God, you're gonna have a hard time conceiving if you ever decide to. Like it was I didn't have that history. Maybe if I would have, I would have gone like a more personalized treatment because I already come with a pre-existing condition. And then maybe then the doctors would have been like, oh, well, this is a special case. But I had nothing. It was just a
So
regular
they really
patient.
based their recommendation on your age, pretty much.
Basically. Yeah.
What you mentioned, the one size fits all approach, or can you explain more of like what does that mean? What is not the best way to treat people or women?
Yeah. So it was definitely the first doctor was like, well, you're too old and you're not going to have good quality eggs. She never examined me. Up to this day, doctor never examined me. She just left me just kind of like in limbo for months. Then I called the clinic. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, it cannot take this long. And I talked to my other friends and I was like, hey, did you had to wait for months to like go through the treatment? And they're like, no, it was really quick. So I have that history. So I reach out to the clinic and then they're like, oh, like we're going to put you with a new doctor because that doctor doesn't want to treat you because you're too old. They put me with a new doctor and the doctor was, I mean, she was fine. She was just very like, okay, like, what do you want to do? Like, I had an initial conversation with her and then she like had me, they examined me. Like, I don't even know if she actually examined me herself or it was some other doctor because they work in this rotation program. And then after that, they gave me the meds and I started like injecting myself. Well, my husband did, but it was fairly quickly after that. Now, later in my journey, I come to find out that the reason the first doctor didn't want to treat me is because she didn't want me to skew her numbers.
Mm.
Which is so wild because here you are going to a doctor thinking they care for you. And in reality, no, this doctor didn't want to take me as a patient because she didn't want me to skew her numbers. Because in reality, yes, I wasn't a 35-year-old, but still, like, are you serious?
So even though IVF success rate is 40% with good chances, he didn't want to like risk his reputation pretty much.
Basically.
Good.
She did offer me a book she wrote, though.
You're like, thank you. I need help.
Exactly. I mean, a book she actually never gave me, but she offered.
How long were you trying before you reach out to a doctor for any type of fertility?
So before I reach out to the first doctor that told me I was too old, to be honest, I wasn't sure. I mean, I still don't have children. I just have the embryos to be ready to put in the oven at some point in life. But I wasn't sure I wanted kids. But I do think you change through life and you might not want something today, but then in a few years, you might want it. And I tell that to my little sister all the time because she's 23 and she's like, I don't want children. And I'm like, I think I'd seen someone that looks like you thinking the same way when she was 23. So I kind of had a change of heart and I was like, you know what? I'm going to freeze my eggs. So that's when I actually like realized like, okay, I'm going to go through this process and freezing my eggs. Should I have done it earlier? Probably, but I didn't want to. Like, I wasn't sure I wanted to have kids before. To be honest, I don't think I'm super sure right now, but at least I have the option. So in a few years, like if I do decide to want to have children, like the option will be there. And that option could have flown. I mean, according to the first doctor, it was already out the window.
So you mostly went that route thinking I'm not ready yet, or I might not be
Exactly.
ready, but I want to have that as an option.
Yes. Yeah.
So you did created a character named Francesca to show how frustrating this treatment was for you. or can be.
Yes, I
So how
did.
does her story connects to you? I want to know the lessons of Francesca.
Oh my God, of course, Francesca is me. I just didn't want to be my story and make it so like personal. I mean, probably because of a little bit of that taboo, right? Like being able to share my article and be like, oh my gosh, that's her story, like poor Maria, or whatever the case may be. Also, to be honest, I sent the article to the clinic. I was like, I wrote an article about my experience, and funny enough, I had a few nurses reaching out to me and being like, hey, what could you have done better? Like, let's like set up a one-on-one. So they seem pretty caring after the fact. I mean, but not during. But yeah, it was just really frustrating from the first part, like having this doctor that told me I was really old, then going to another doctor that she was just fine. Like she was just like an okay doctor. Like she got things moving, which is exactly what I wanted. But I still wasn't getting the results that I needed. Like I still wasn't getting the results that I was wishing for. And I just thought to myself, there is no way that like your diet or your vitamins or everything you do doesn't play an impact, that it's just your age. I'm like, there is absolutely no way. And I kept asking, what can I do? What can I do? And it was always like, no, just take your vitamin D and a multivitamin and you're good to go. And I was like, there's absolutely no way. Also, as I was like asking for all these like information, it was ever the same doctor. Like I had this one doctor that's supposed to be my doctor, but I saw her probably once during the entire process. Like you can really build a relationship with someone that you see one time, and every time you go to the doctor you have someone else examine you and they work on this rotation program. And even when you're gonna get your eggs taken out, it's a different doctor who happened to be on call that day. So it's really hard to create that one-on-one relationship and for your doctor to really get to know you. So then what I did is I was like, clearly not working out for me. Like I know there is another like solution out there. Like I don't know if it's holistic, like I don't know what it is, but there has to be something out there. At some point I did acupuncture, which to be honest, I don't think it was for me, but I think I also the acupuncture that I went to forgot about me in the room. So I was left there for hours and I had to yell like, hey, help, help. And then she came and like to the rescue. So I was like, I'm never coming back. Like that was traumatizing. But what I ended up doing is I ended up finding a fertility doctor in Mexico and I had appointments with her. I was like, hey, help me out here. They say like my egg quality is not going to get any better. What can I do? And she gave me this list of supplements that I need to take. She also told me to take, to do the Mediterranean diet, which God, who knew? She also told me about like a few different techniques that we could do in terms of like, kind of like the shampoo effect. So you ended up finished like a fertility like injections. And she says that after 5 days, you kind of start all over again. And that helps boost your egg quality and boost your like to like have better eggs like in that second round. So you kind of do like two back to back. So that was another thing. So I was at that point, I kind of felt like I was like cheating on my doctor in the States because I will go to my doctor in Mexico and I will be like, okay, what can I do? And she will give me all these like things that I could do. And then I will go to the doctor in the States and I'll be like, well, I think I can do this and this. And funny enough, I probably was not that far like from the truth because when I told her the idea of doing back to back, she was like, oh yeah, sometimes we do that and they do give us better results. I was like, okay, but you never suggested that? Like, why? So it was just a lot of like me finding information on my own and then coming back to the doctor that I had to see if it was like something that we could do. Also, something that was super helpful. My husband usually did the injections for me, but he was on a business trip once, so he couldn't do the injections. So we had to hire nurses to do the injections. They would come to my house and do those injections for me. Life saving. They gave me so much information. Like, for example, you can't do the injections in the same spot. You need to rotate. And there's like numbers like 1 to 14. So 1 to 7 on this part of your belly and 1 to 8 to 14 on the bottom part of your belly. Who knew? I didn't know that. They also told me that I couldn't work out during the time that I was doing the egg freezing. No one ever told me that. And the reason why you can't work out is because your eggs, like they can tangle and you could end up in the hospital. I was like, oh my gosh, I could have ended up in the hospital. Here I am, like going to CrossFit when I probably should have not been doing anything. And they gave me like a bunch of different tips, like so much that every time I would eat something, I would like text the nurse and I'll be like, can I eat this? And they're like, yeah, that's good. But that's information that I would have never been able to get, and my husband would have never gone on a business trip. But it's information that I should have gotten from my doctor in the first place.
And I think this is a very personal question, but how much money between Mexico, nurses, several rounds, supplements, and you're still paying storage and you're still doing ongoing? How much money, roughly? I mean, if you feel comfortable.
So I'm lucky enough that it was all through tech benefits. So it wasn't that much money. I think ballpark, if I were to give you like a number between everything, it would probably be somewhere around like $5,000, which is not a ton, probably even less than that, to be honest. But obviously, I looked at all the statements and every round was at least $15,000. So I did 7. I am paying for storage, and storage is $1,000 a year. Previous to that, it's because my husband recently moved from one tech company to a different one, and they don't pay for storage. But I think it's true, the tech benefit, that I was able to get so many rounds and pay so little money. But someone that doesn't have that benefit and is doing it on their own, they get the same care that I did. Like, it's not special, like you're paying out of pocket. Like, you are getting the one-size-fits-all approach. And that's not going to get you the egg quality. That's not going to get you all the knowledge that you need. And that's probably not going to get you a baby. Like, it's just going to get you to spend at least $15,000 out of your own pocket with this like hope and dream that you're giving to the doctors, and the doctors are like going to help you have a baby. Like, I don't know, to be honest, I understand why so many women that don't have this benefit just kind of go abroad and try to do it elsewhere.
So would you say that if you would have had to pay out of pocket, that would have been over $100,000 for sure?
Yeah, for sure.
But not only that, there was no education. There was no real care. They really didn't look into your health, and they didn't even warn you of the risk, even of you working out when you're under this heavy treatment. So there was not even that type of disclosure, like, this is not good for you. Like, if you are going under this treatment, you should not do these things because it can be very risky for your health, not just for the embryos, but for your own health.
It was nothing. Like, it was, I describe it kind of like milking cows. Like, it was just like cattle, like going through cattle. And I told this, like, at some point, I just became really vocal because I'm like, there is no way. So I would go and I would like talk to whoever wanted to hear me. Like, I would be like, there is no way that this is a care that you guys offer. Like, I think at some point, yeah, I became the loudest person in the room and I got better care, but it wasn't better. Like, it was just like as bad as the next person's. I was just probably getting more phone calls and like, hey, how are you feeling? Or like, at some point, I remember I finished doing a retrieval and the doctor called me and she's like, hey, this is your doctor. And I'm like, oh. Like, the doctor never calls you. But it's because I kept complaining and complaining that she thought maybe a phone call would do it. No, a phone call doesn't do it. It's you really looking at my chart and telling me, hey, Maria, I see you have this and this and this. Like, we recommend this and that. Or there's a study that you can read. Or there's this book that you can read. I continuously ask, is there like anything that I can, like videos? Is there like documentaries? Is there like a book? Anything? It was nothing. Like, they always told me there's not enough research. There's not enough research. Like, is there really not enough research? I don't think so.
Let me guess. You've been peeing on sticks, tracking your temperature, and scouring the internet for answers about your cycle, right? It's exhausting, confusing, and honestly, it shouldn't be this hard to understand what's going on with your body. Now, imagine a different way, a method that actually gives you real insights into your cycle. And helps you understand exactly when you're ovulating and eliminates all the guesswork. That's when the Creighton Model System comes in. It's not another gadget or a quick fix. It's a proven method that gives you the knowledge and tools that work with your body, not against it. And the best part, you can learn the basics in my free introductory session. To get started, head into the show notes and register. It is packed with practical tips to help you decode your cycle and take the first step towards your fertility goals without the stress and without the sticks. Stop guessing and start understanding. Attend this free monthly introductory session and join me for a free session. Your fertility journey deserves clarity, and I'm here to help you get there. It's just not enough caring. So
I agree.
Which of the changes you think is the most important right now to make and doctors are hesitant to do?
To be honest, I think doctors are petrified to tell you to take vitamins or take like more vitamins because they don't want to give you a recommendation that's not like completely backed up by a ton of data. And then maybe you as a patient could be like, well, you told me to do this and you told me that it was going to be better quality X. I think there's something there because I think it's because they don't want to recommend you everything that they think might work or that they've seen would work on other patients, even if there is not enough data. I think it's because they don't want to get sued or something among those lines. Like, that's just where my mind goes because I find it really hard to believe that I had my doctor in Mexico on kind of like speed dial. Like, I would send her messages and she would respond. And she told me what supplements to take. And she would send me books and she would give me all this information. And I just find it really hard to believe that doctors here don't have that, especially when you're thinking, well, the education and just the research in the States is better than in any other country or in some countries at least. So I think there's something in terms of like legal that they can or they don't want to give you all the information because they almost don't want to get sued. But that's just a hunch. I obviously don't know for sure.
Do you think it's a little bit of that and a little bit that it became a product, a very desired product that it can be sold? Like in your case, like you're saying, I don't have to pay much, but if somebody in your case have to pay over and over that many rounds, it becomes multi-million-dollar industry too. And also, like you're mentioning in your earlier, the doctor didn't want to skew his numbers.
There's might be some truth to that. I hope not. I really hope not, because we go to the doctors when we're sick and when we're vulnerable and when we're in need of care. And for them to see you as a product or kind of like as a customer, to be honest, like that's a recurring customer, like it's just really sad. I do think like pharma, like kind of like big pharma makes it harder because for doctors to truly like figure out that you have and for like insurance and stuff to be able to get reimbursed for that, like they have to do all these tests to be able to like find out that you have when in some other cases they could have just done one test and find out. So I think there's something with like insurance companies and just kind of like big pharma overall too, because they always give you the same fertility drugs. Like I don't know who makes Menopur, but it's making a ton of money on Menopur because it's so expensive too. Like I remember looking at like how expensive Menopur was, and I think it was like $1,000 a box. Like it's just wild. But they never gave me anything else that wasn't Menopur. Is there something else? Is there a generic like Menopur kind? I don't know.
So there is a combination of the gatekeepers of the information, lack of education also, because I feel like a lot of education, at least in my field, happens a lot earlier. Like you're saying, now you're communicating with your sister. Now you're communicating with the people that you love. Think about this. maybe don't have this. Maybe the Mediterranean diet will do. Maybe all the supplements will do. In your case, you have a very specific dream, right? You want something down the line. But if somebody wants to get pregnant naturally, there's so much they can do also, even to improve their health, because it seems like they didn't care about health to begin with.
Yeah. No, I agree. And we never really talked about the side effects either. Like I'm sure there's a ton of side effects. Like my mom, she's a dentist. She's not a doctor, but she's a dentist in Mexico. And she would tell me like, which is not true because I actually asked a doctor here and the doctor said it wasn't true. My mom was like, you need to stop doing so many rounds because you're gonna like get menopause sooner. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. So then I actually asked the doctor like, hey, is like that true? And the doctor said that no, because they just make the eggs healthy at that one time. So it really shouldn't affect at what age you get menopause. But I'm sure there's many side effects of like injecting yourself with all these hormones, but I never heard anything of it. Like it was never a conversation that I had with my doctor. Like, hey, Maria, if you do another round, or we only recommend we do X amount of rounds because of XYZ, and focusing on like side effects in your body. Like I never had any kind of conversation like that. Like I remember when I was going for the retrievals, like I would talk to the nurses and they will be like, well, I had this patient that did like 8 rounds and I had this patient that has been trying for 3 years. And I'm like, 3 years? Like, I think I probably did like a year and a half, to be honest. 3 years? Like, that's a long time. Like, you can't be doing the same thing over and over for 3 years and not change anything. And they just made it seem like she was just doing the same thing over and over. And for me, they never change anything from first time that I got 3X to last time that I got like 12. So we are just doing the same thing over and over.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Are there any final thoughts, message, or anything that you want to share that you wish somebody on the other side in your space, or even like younger version of you will benefit from your message?
So younger version of me would do this sooner, to be honest. I think I probably would have done it the moment that I had the benefit. I would say to other women that are going through this, like talk about it, educate yourselves, and be vocal about what your needs are, and finding like kind of like support groups or like being able to like find information, because that was something that I didn't know who to speak to about, who had gone through this journey and kind of had the same struggles that I did. So I think just finding a support group that you can have these conversations with other people, just be vocal about it. Because I think the more vocal that you are, you're going to find other women that have gone through this journey and have insight that are going to be able to help you out. Yeah. So I think those will be like my words of wisdom.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I for sure appreciate, and it's an honor for me to have you here. There are a lot of women that actually decide not to go artificial technology. They want to do it naturally. They want to try themselves. I know for you that wasn't an option ever. What would you say to them that are like, I want to try first. I want to do it first. I know you have a ton of experience with the journey. What would you say to them?
So I would actually say that vitamins and like your diet really helps improve the quality of you getting good quality eggs and probably getting pregnant as well. So I would say just do research, like get on Google and just be like, and obviously don't believe everything you read, right? But I'm a huge believer in like all kinds of medicine, not just like you going to a regular doctor, but like holistic medication and stuff like that. Like I do think that does make a difference. Also, like energy. Like I think if you put your energy out there and if you really want a kid, like just throw it to the universe.
Well, thank you for sharing your message. We will link your article notes, so feel free to check it out. And again, thank you so much, Maria, for making the time to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, we got a special treat for you. Join our free Facebook group where you can connect with other amazing women and share your thoughts. Join us by clicking in the link in the show notes. We can't wait to welcome you into our supportive community. And don't forget to come back for our next episode, where we'll be sharing even more inspiring stories, encouraging tips, educational insights, and practical strategies. Oh, and before you go, we have a tiny favor to ask. If you found today's episode uplifting and helpful, please leave us a review. It's like giving us a virtual hug, and it helps other amazing women like you find our show. Plus, it makes us smile from ear to ear. And hey, why stop there? Share the love. Tell your Betsies, your mom, your sister, and even your favorite barista about our podcast. The more, the merrier.